In 1 week, the Heat went from saying, we will not trade Jimmy Butler to, the goal right now is to move Butler as soon as possible. And they suspended him 7 games. Jimmy will never wear a Heat uniform again. He can be traded as soon as this week. But we are now getting reports about who's interested, and Jimmy's not gonna like this. But also, why is he doing this? Why is it that Jimmy Butler has to burn down every team on the way out? Well, back on the Bulls, Jimmy was a late first-round pick. They didn't know how good that he would be, so instead of paying him the max, Chicago traded him to Minnesota for young players and picks. The Wolves didn't want to pay him, so he got dealt to Philly, and even though he played great with Joel Embiid, they chose to pay Tobias Harris, Josh Richardson, and Al Horford over him. So Jimmy has been underrated his whole life. He's paranoid. People don't respect him, and a max contract is proof that they respect him. This isn't about the money. It's about respect, especially for Jimmy. And yes, it didn't help that Pat Riley put him on blast in the media.
You should keep your mouth shut.
But this was always about that respect. Well, what is his next team gonna be? Yo, the NBA season's almost halfway over, and I've never wanted like more regular season games until I started playing Underdog, because every night is so much fun. When I'm playing Pick'em, I pick higher or lower for whatever games I'm gonna watch that night, guys I wanna root for, and I can up to 1,000x my money with streaks. All you gotta do is pick 11 right in a row. But again, it's not really about the money for me, it's about making picks and having fun while watching games. So let me give you my 2 picks. First up, Anthony Simons, lower on his 31.5 PRAs, and then Dante DiVincenzo, lower on his 3.5 boards. And best of luck if you were tailing those picks. Check out this map. Underdog's available in states like California, Florida, or Texas with champions. But please, if you've never played Underdog, use my promo code AIMHOOPS. It really helps out the channel. Plus, you get a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Jimmy's preferred list is the Warriors, Suns, Rockets, and Mavericks. But Shop said, hey, he'll take literally any team but Miami. And it's risky to max out a 35-year-old, but Jimmy is still a top 20 player in the NBA. He would put any team closer to a championship. In fact, there is a stat called value above replacement player. It basically shows how much better a guy is than your average player. And since being in Miami outside of last year's injury, Jimmy is number 2 in the NBA for the playoffs. Dominates big games better than anyone not named Nikola Jokic. But despite that, we are already learning Golden State is out. Oh, they need a scorer, a two-way star next to Steph, but the Warriors are not currently seen as a viable option, and there have been no substantive talks or traction to get any type of deal done. What? Why? Well, Jimmy makes about $48 million this year, so to trade for him, the Dubs would have to give up either Andrew Wiggins or Draymond Green. Obviously, it's Wiggs, but dude has been good. Back to being their best wing defender and 40% from downtown. Plus, everyone just really likes Andrew Wiggins in the locker room. And like Jimmy Butler, okay, if he's upset at all, everybody's gonna feel it like a moody girlfriend. No offense. Now, that does not mean that Jonathan Kuminga is off the table. The Athletic also said he is not untouchable. And yeah, he's been playing better 30-point games, but this was always the plan. Feature JK to up his value. They just don't want to give up Wiggs and JK, who defend, for Jimmy. Instead, the Warriors are now looking at cheaper options like Cameron Johnson and Nikola Vucevic. So Warriors out of the picture, which is surprising and honestly kind of sucks. I was hoping to see Jimmy and Steph on the same team, but the Mavericks don't have the assets to deal. What about the Suns? The one team risky enough to max out a disgruntled 35-year-old. Suns are like a drunk college kid. They give no Fs. But how would that happen? Well, because they're in the second apron, the Suns can't take back $1 extra in a trade. However, they've got 3 guys that make more money than Jimmy Butler: Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. KD and Book are obviously too good. Beal's got a no-trade clause, but good news, he would waive that thing to get to Miami. Plus, he went to college in Florida. He could get back to being a number 1 or number 2 option. Just one issue. ESPN says the Heat have 0 interest in taking on Beal. Why? Because he is owed $50 million this year, $53.7 million next year, and $57.1 the year after that for a player worse than Jimmy Butler. Why would they do that? You know, if they're not going to extend Jimmy because they don't think he's good enough, why would they take on that money for Bradley Beal? So that means there's got to be a third team that Beal can go to. Well, before he was traded to the Suns, reports said that Beal would waive his no-trade clause for the Heat, Nets, Celtics, Warriors, and Sixers, but I would probably throw in the Lakers and Clippers, and then contenders like the Bucks, the Nuggets, the Mavericks, or the Knicks. But none of those teams want Bradley Beal for the exact same reason that Miami doesn't want him. So plan B is to make Beal miserable and want a trade. Well, today, Phoenix announced they are benching Bradley Beal for rookie Ryan Dunn. That could be the exact thing that makes him angry enough to waive that no-trade clause. So what would that deal actually look like? Well, the Heat get Ben Simmons, Zaire Williams, and Daron Sharp. The Suns get Jimmy Butler. The Nets get Beal, Alec Burks, and a 2031 first-round pick swap from Phoenix. Okay, why does Miami do this? Because Mark Stein reports the Heat are known to be seeking a Jimmy Butler trade that requires them to take back the smallest possible amount of guaranteed money beyond this season. Well, guess what? Ben Simmons, Zaire Williams, and Daron Sharp all expire this summer. It's exactly what Miami's looking for. Why do the Nets do this? Because they get that Suns swap, which is super valuable for their rebuild. Then they try to work maybe a buyout deal with Beal. Still, this is all very unlikely. So by far, the most intriguing team is the Houston Rockets. If Jimmy gets traded, I bet anything it is to H-Town. Why? Because they need an elite level scorer. Can you believe this team is the number 3 seed in the West with 0 players scoring 20 points a game? How is that even possible in 2025? And yeah, he's not on their timeline, but do you remember that weird report by Woj last summer that the Rockets want Kevin Durant? What was that all about? But the most important factor in all this, the Rockets don't have to give up any key pieces to get this done. They could just trade vets like Steven Adams and Dillon Brooks, plus one young guy like Jabari Smith Jr. Or they could deal Reed Shepherd. I know you all love Reed Shepherd, but Ime Udoka doesn't. I mean, I was at the Mavs game the other night. Reed played as many minutes in that game as I did. Not a great sign, so flip him for Jimmy, and you could keep Alperen Şengün, Jalen Green, have Fred VanVleet run point. It makes so much sense. But if not Houston, and a lot of reports say they're out, then who? Well, unless a mystery team swoops in here, the answer is obvious. We know what the Heat are gonna do. But first, that mystery team could be the Nuggets with a package around Michael Porter Jr., the Grizz around 3 smaller manageable contracts, the Pels around Brandon Ingram. Miami would hope that they could re-sign him to a lower number, plus he's 27 years old, or the Kings for De'Aaron Fox. But we haven't heard any news about those trades. So what do the Heat do? Well, it turns out there is a great option for them on the table, because it looks like they're negotiating from a position of weakness right now because of Jimmy's dysfunction, but really, Pat Riley is not going to be bullied into taking any bad deal. Instead, he could do what the Warriors did with Klay Thompson. Klay agreed to a $50 million deal with Dallas, so the Dubs signed and traded him to the Mavs, getting back just draft picks, no salaries, which created a $14 million trade exception. $14 million was the value of his first year in Dallas. A trade exception is like a gift card to get NBA players. So they went out and they used their gift card on Buddy Hield and Kyle Anderson. And oh, the Heat's gift card for Jimmy, by the way, $40 million. How would you like a $40 million gift card for NBA players? They'd also get the $14 million mid-level exception and the $5.1 million biannual exception. So they could make a whole new team with this. Oh, you don't like the players being offered for Jimmy right now? Cool, go out and get a whole bunch of guys you do like. But maybe Denver should trade for Jimmy Butler. He'd be better than Zach LaVine in the playoffs for sure. But right now, they are wasting peak Nikola Jokic. KD just called him a top 10 player all time. They need to get him help.